I haven't had all the time in the world to play games. But I did make a new mistake, which was to download Guild Wars 2. So, why did this happen? To be honest, I don't know why. I think that I was... Okay, so Guild Wars 2 is a game that... When was it? When it came out? 2012? I'm going to be so right on this. I want to look so cool. Show me 2012. Oh! August 28, 2012. Let's go. So Guild Wars 2 is a game that I have always heard about in the background. I remember it being very well received on launch. And then I just kind of like, I was not for the longest time an MMO player. I didn't really get into MMOs till like 2021, I think. That was when I started playing FF14. And then I was like, oh, I actually dig this genre in a lot of ways. Let me check it out. And now I've got a couple of videos on my channel about dead MMOs and stuff like that. Which are honestly those videos are really fun to make, but they do terrible in views. I think it's because I dedicated myself to like a naming scheme that I find very fun, but doesn't do that well with the spirits. Anyway, it's always just been this game that's kind of looming in the background that I've always heard. Every time I hear about it, people are like, yeah, Guild Wars 2, that's a great game. It's a good game. It's got great combat. It's got a cool world. It just got great systems. And I've just never checked it out. It's never been like the game at the forefront. It's just been like the kind of slow and steady title hanging around in the back. And for whatever reason, I literally cannot remember why. I decided to check it out. I think maybe I was just looking. I think I was thinking about it recently because I was so curious. Because I like Trents, or what are they? Treants? Trent. I don't know how it's tree people. I think tree people are cool. I think like Earth elemental theme stuff is cool, like Earth nature stuff. And I'm like, man, I was like, man, there's not a lot of game that lets you play as like plant people or tree people. And Guild Wars 2 has a plant people species called the Sylvari. So that was like a few months ago, and then randomly I just decided to check out like, what do the classes do in Guild Wars 2? And Guild Wars 2 has some cool classes. And it made I watched a video that was really good, actually. Actually, let me like literally, I'm actually going to recommend Guild Wars 2 classes. I'm actually going to recommend it because it was a really good video. Oh, let me find it again. I'm literally going to pause again to find another video. Okay, I found the video. It was called Which Class Should You Play? Guild Wars 2 Best Professions by a YouTuber named Valun. And I just clicked on it at random, and it was like probably one of the best written new player class guide things I've ever watched. Like his perspective is exactly perfect for what it's not filled with like a bunch of gobbledygook jargon. It's a pretty concise explanation of the core things that each class and like spec does, and like what is their appeal, which is something that I think a lot of them miss. I think a lot of guides miss of like, why would you want to play this? So I watched this video. It was great, and it made Rangers look really cool. So I decided to download the game. It's free to play, and I'm about maybe 5 hours into it. So very, very early impressions. How is it hitting me first off? Yep. This is a pretty good action MMO RPG thing. It's fun. Mind you, I have to take this with a slight grain of salt, which is that I am playing through content that was released in 2012, probably designed in like 2006 or something, or at least like the game probably started developing in 2006. I'm playing content that was technically developed before I was even in middle school. So when I was in elementary school. So the age is definitely something to take into account, but even with that being said, I think that it's pretty fun. Mostly just the fact that it plays very well at a basic level. The content isn't like the most crazy thing ever. It's not really fetch quests. It's more like just kind of like, actually there's the at least the early leveling has had a lot of story-based quests. There is no, as far as I can tell at the moment, they haven't introduced any kind of large overarching narrative. It's actually a personal storyline that's based off of something that your character wants to do. There is a little bit of I would say railroading in the RPGing aspect of it, or the role-playing aspect of it, which is that your character is voiced. I don't think you have a choice of your voice. Or if it is, it's not displayed as such. It's some other like character trait. So, you know, there was definitely like a big train maybe 10 years ago for having fully voiced MMOs. And I'm cool with like certain important things being voiced. I'm cool with that. But I'm not always a fan of everything being voiced, and also my character having a voice. I can go back and forth on it. I don't super mind it. It's just the way that the game is. To my taste, it's fine. Also, not literally everything is voiced. Some things are just through text boxes and stuff like that. But a lot of things are voiced. So if you like that, it does feel like that effort has been put in to get people in the booth. How does the game actually play that makes it so interesting? So Guild Wars 2 has some really cool classes. It's got some really cool classes, and it ranges from stuff like there's like an elementalist who switches between essentially different stances with different elemental-based attacks, and I think they can like combine some of their stuff and put down fields that can then affect enemies and stuff like that. There's like a necromancer who they pay like health costs, and they get this ultimate ability that gives them essentially like an extra life bar to just like rip through. The Mesmer is one of the coolest sounding classes. They use like illusions and stuff, so they like teleport and create body doubles and like phantom swords and stuff like that. Very cool. The Ranger, which is the class that I've been playing, is basically the pet class. And what drew me to it in the first place is that, like, yeah, you get... Well, actually, okay. You don't just get a bow and arrow. You get a lot of stuff. I'll explain that in a second. Their main gimmick, or their appeal, is that you get a pet companion who follows you around, and you can give a couple different commands. But you can... There is a progression element to the pets, in that you can collect more of them by going out into the world and literally taming certain animals. Off of them, they're on a list, right? It's not just like everything. It's not just every animal in the world. But there's like 30 something at least different pets that you can tame, and each of them have their own movesets. You get like an entire different moveset for being underwater, and your pet does too. And there are underwater pets. You can have a shark companion. Come on, man. I can't say no to a class that lets me get a shark companion. So I've been playing that. And when I said that you get a lot of different stuff, of course you're a ranger, so you got a bow. You got bows and arrows. But your moveset... It basically uses hotkey combat, but movesets are decided by what weapon type you're using. So bows have a moveset, swords have their own moveset, hammers have their own moveset, daggers have their own moveset, and I'm sure the magical stuff has its own whole suite of different stuff. I don't know how the magic stuff works. And when I say action, I mean that there is like a dodge button. There's a dodge button, and there's like an auto, I would say basic, like the most basic type of attack. So for Ranger, shoot an arrow. And you can have that basically set to you can set that to just automatically repeat. It will loop. whenever it's off cooldown. or its cooldown finishes by the time you're done casting it. So you can basically just do it over and over until the animation's over. Or it loops, it starts up as soon as the animation, you know what I'm saying. It automatically happens. And then you've got other stuff like I can shoot a bunch of arrows. I can shoot an arrow that turns me invisible. I can shoot an AoE arrow. I can shoot an arrow that knocks the opponent back. And then you've got, so that's like bound per weapon, right? And as you level up, I mean, as soon as you actually don't have to even unlock like weapon skills. Like if you're a certain level, like really fast, I think by like level 10 at the very least, or at the very most, you get access to all 5 of a weapon's attacks for every weapon that you pick up that is compatible with your class. Not every class can use every weapon. But if you have all 5, slots essentially unlocked, I can switch to a sword and I will have all the sword moves. I can switch to something else. I'll have all the moves of that are available to me. That's the distinction of actually like the warrior class is their weapon masters, which is actually I think that's a very cool way. Like, I feel like warriors tend to be very stock standard sort of fighters, but the idea of them actually being highly flexible in many different weapons, making them these weapon master characters, is a pretty cool way of distinguishing them and actually making them sound kind of cool. Oh, they get to use a really wide variety of movesets, potentially for different situations or something. You can also have multiple, you can do weapon swapping. There is weapon switching in this game. I believe you can have up to 2 that you can switch between. So rangers can have bows, swords. I don't know what else they can have. Again, I'm not that deep into the game. But you can have like more weapons than just a bow as a ranger, which is neat because in my mind, a cool ranger, I'm a little bummed when rangers get reduced down to bow and arrow, because rangers, I think of them more as being like multi-purpose sort of like hunters or scouts or something. Or, I mean, the definition is that they're people who range over the land. And like, yeah, that includes maybe having a bow and arrow. But also like other short swords or different magical spells and stuff like that. Like it feels like a little disappointing when they're reduced down to bow and arrow. Like that doesn't really capture the fantasy of being a ranger, which to me is a cool idea that's just not very well captured by a lot of games. But Guild Wars has some cool implementations of that. So most of the early game is just kind of like going through your race's starting area, which is pretty big as far as I can tell. And it's mostly interconnected. There's like one loading screen that I have encountered. But for the most part, it's all kind of like a pretty seamless experience across a pretty cool looking area. I'm a tree people. I'm a plant person. So I start off in the big lush jungle with all this interesting, these giant plants and like stems that are as big as trees and stuff like that, and these big flowers and waterways, and very pretty. Definitely has a nice, a very well-aged art style, even for being released in 2012, and it's able to run on my laptop, which is not the most powerful gaming device in the world, but and it still looks pretty good and it runs pretty well, although it does make my laptop very hot after like 30 minutes. I've mostly just been kind of getting along because doing stuff in the game is fun. I really like exploring. It feels like there are so many. Exploring is really fun, which is like the most important part of an MMO to me. exploring, but really the world. I would say the most important part of an MMO is the world. It's like basically the entire appeal of the genre. There's people who are going to be more into the mechanics, some people who are going to be more into the lore or the storytelling. And I would say I lean more on the mechanical side. But really, to me, my favorite part of role-playing games, if we're going to talk about actual role-playing and not like the weird kind of version of what role-playing means in like a game design sense, which that's a whole other topic. For me, I like having a character who can do especially like cool, flavorful things that represent the character, whether that be a class or a class list system. I like being able to mechanically like do functions in the world that make me kind of feel like a ranger or a paladin or a ninja, in FF14. I love ninjas. I love ninjas in FF14 because they are so, it's like my favorite class. Because they are so, I feel like a damn ninja when I'm doing my ninjutsus. I'm doing my Naruto hand signs and crafting different ninjutsu spells and learning the patterns and stuff is so cool. It's such a cool experience, and I get to go do cool ninja shit. To me, that's like the most satisfying part of role playing. This was talking about the world. I like the world. There hasn't been any like big overarching storyline or conflict set up yet. It's all just very personal stuff, which is more of an excuse to get acquainted with, it's like an introduction. It feels kind of like a prologue where I'm getting introduced to the world, but specifically my character's little slice of it. The culture of the Sylvari. This game does a lot of little world building things really well. I want to talk about it. So, for one, the first thing that pops out to me is little dialogue barks. As you'll be walking around, one of the ways in which having so many things be voiced works in its benefit is that you will just absorb casual conversations between NPCs as you're walking around. Like I'm inspecting some kind of old castle that's being repurposed for something else, and there's a bunch of people working in it, and you'll just hear a conversation between two people about their day. One guy's complaining about something, and then they drop like a couple little things that reference other stuff, and you don't know exactly what it means, but you can kind of tell from context. You're just learning little things about the world. There's like a market that I stopped at, and I overheard an NPC conversation where someone asked, it's when you get a little further from the Sylvari home, like tree thing, and there's like a couple other races. There's like frog people, there's like bird tengu people, stuff like that, and you just hear this little conversation between these non-Sylvari, and one of them's like, oh yeah, how do you like living in the area? And the other one says, oh, they're good. The Sylvari are good neighbors, but they ask too many questions. And just from that, you get all of these little details, like maybe this person, first of all, like a little detail about how this character, where they are at their life. They've been in a sort of new place for a little while. They're getting acquainted with it. They're a bit of an outsider, and they have their own thoughts on the local people, and they like them, but maybe they don't like. Maybe this character is doing sort of shady business, or they're a little underhanded. And maybe the Sylvari are a little more innocent or good-natured compared to maybe the culture they come from, or the area they come from, and they're or maybe just themselves, not even on like a cultural level, but on an individual level, and they don't quite appreciate. They're like, yeah, they're good people, but that can, for my purposes, that can get a little annoying sometimes. Like that's. Oh, what a fun little detail to just overhear an NPC conversation, just to absorb through that. It's not this, there is there's been no heavy-handed world building. There's been like almost no exposition delivered to me at all. I think there's been some, but it's mainly just like, hey, here's your race's deal. They're like plant people, and they are born from a dream. There's some like other dimension that they exist in. It's this abstract dimension of dream and thought. And the Sylvari, they aren't born, they're awakened from the dream. They're like, it's actually very cool. They're pulled from the realm of the immaterial or the abstract into the physical, the material. And that's like a lot, most of what you get. That's most of the setup that I absorbed, at least. Other cool world building things. Every single area of the map of the world has lots of exploration-based completionism things. So, and just like stuff to do. So the most obvious one is quests. The way that side quests are handed out is you walked into an area and you'll see on the map there's a little heart. As soon as you're in the area, you essentially have the option to do a side quest for an NPC. I have a slight gripe with this because you never have to actually talk to the NPC in order to accept or complete the side quest, which for some people might seem like, oh, that's good, you know? Like, oh, well, I don't have to, you know, it's more efficient, it's faster that way. And like, yeah, and it is kind of nice that you can just kind of run into an area, kill some stuff, and then fill up a progress bar, and then be on your way. But like, not actually interacting with the NPCs themselves or really understanding what's going on is, I don't know. I feel like that actually does, it's like a minor strike, but it does kind of detract from the connection you get to the world. Just having to talk to someone feels like it goes a long way towards actually embedding you within. I mean, you're like you're supposed to be living in this community or you're a part of this community, of this race of people. Maybe for like completing quests, it's fine. City of Heroes has a nice take on this where you do have to talk to most NPCs in order to start quest lines. But in order to finish an individual objective, you can just do that remotely. Once you're done with it, you don't have to go all the way back to them. So that's like, that's like a minor strike against it. But you are able to just walk into an area and be like, and then just at the top of the screen, the corner of the screen, it'll go, do this. Here's all the things that you can do to help this NPC, this quest giver, basically. And then you run around doing it, and then you get some experience for it, and maybe you level up. And then at the end, you click on a thing to finish it, and you unlock that NPC as a merchant. You're essentially completing like social link quests for every little minor NPC, and doing so, doing their little side mission in the world, unlocks them as a merchant to go talk to and sell items to, which you'll need because their storage space isn't that large. And it is frequently filling up. So, there's that. There are the world events, which I think that every MMO should have. 14 does this. A lot of MMOs do this, I think, nowadays, especially. Which are just, you're running around the world, and in some designated area, a thing will be happening. An elite enemy appears, and you and other players are able to take them down. There's multiple waves. There's all these waves of zombies rising up out of the ocean, and they're coming in waves, and you and other players can come together to defend from the waves. You got to do like 9 waves of them. Waves from the waves, haha. And doing that nets you, some extra experience and stuff like that. Just stuff that like lets you do things in the world. Then, even more exploration stuff. There are waypoints that you can unlock for fast travel, but you have to visit the waypoint first. You have to actually go there first, which I think is the best way to do it. to actually, you need to explore the area before then. And then afterwards, I'm fine with just letting me teleport there. It just takes out a little bit of tedium. Some people don't like that. But yeah, I don't mind it. I won't lie. It saves me time. There are points of interest, which are just little minor locations on the map. And you walk through them, and you get a thing at the top that says, like, you've discovered this location. And it's just a tiny little spot there that's like, so-and-so's outlook, or the house of this person, or this clan. And that basically does nothing besides check a thing off the map. But it is like, okay, you're getting acquainted with the area. It implies a larger history and culture to the area, that these are named places that the locals have for this, or maybe it's the official name, whatever. It can imply things about, the history of the place via its name, what people think of it, things that if it belongs to someone in particular, if it was named after someone, just like, again, little things. And then what I think is really nice, what I really like, are vistas. Vistas are the final, like, exploration completionist thing. And they are actually just locations that you can go to, and then there'll be a little map floating in the air. And typically they're a little out of the way. You usually have to do a little bit of like a parkour thing, just do a little bit of platforming. They call them jumping puzzles, which I think is funny. Like, it's not much of a puzzle. You're doing a little bit of platforming to get to a certain spot, and then there's a little map floating in the air. You interact with it, and you will get, these places are meant to be overlooks where you can see a nice view of the area, and you will get this cutscene of just the camera kind of washing over the location, like a big sweeping establishing shot of different angles that are visible from this height, from this viewpoint. And that stuff's really nice. Again, just stuff to like fill out the world, make it feel lived in, give you a sense of appreciation for the world and its many sights and people. And I think the game really excels at that, in somewhat subtle ways, right? You might not think that it's subtle if there's like a literal check mark that there's a box that you can literally check off of all the points of interest. But those are really tapping into like goal-oriented players, right? So the very intrinsically motivated players, they're going to make their own fun. And maybe someone who's really into exploring is going to go do all that stuff on their own, right? Of their own accord. But maybe the real like numbers, goals-oriented player won't. Putting in this system kind of satisfies both sides. Because the person who just wants to explore is going to be like, oh, cool. Here's a thing that I can actually, that like tracks my progress of exploring the world. And that acts as like a handy checklist for places I haven't seen yet. And the person who's more goal-oriented and more, numbers-based is going to go, cool, something I can complete. And then in doing so, whoa, now they have more of an appreciation for the world. Why are they actually have to spend time focusing on being in the world. And that's really cool. I think that's a really cool idea to include in an MMO like this and to sell me on the world. So far, it's working. I'm enjoying the combat. I'm enjoying the world. The visuals are really nice. I just want to explore more. I like doing stuff. Every time I log in, I feel like I'm making progress. There's a little bit of an asterisk, which is that I just so happened to start playing it during a double XP weekend. So I'm like 10 levels ahead of where I should be. I don't really mind because it's fun to make the number go up. But I do feel like I've been making progress as I've been playing. And it is cool to just make progress really fast. So under normal circumstances, I'd probably be going through it, honestly, maybe not even slower, but just unlocking stuff at a slower rate. It's cool. I am enjoying it. I am seeing, obviously I've only seen a few hours of the game, but I'm seeing the seeds of promise that this is a game that the developers actually put a lot of thought and time into, and that they have their priorities straight. They decided what kind of game they wanted to make, and from what I've seen so far, they seem to have focused on implementing stuff that kind of fulfills those goals, right? Making the combat feel responsive. Obviously, there's a little bit of a adjustment period. MMO combat's never going to be the smoothest thing ever, just because of tick rate and stuff like that. That's just how it works. But once you get the hang of it, it feels really good to play. It feels good to move around. The classes seem very distinct. I've heard of people who play like a dozen different characters because they just want to play everything. Because also every single class has 3 different specs. They have like 3 different, your final tier of advancement on your character's like skill tree, essentially. It's basically a skill tree. Is you pick, you basically fill out everything. You do everything up to a certain point, and then you basically go in one of 3 directions. And so there's, There's 9 classes, and each one of them has three different specs. So that's like, depending on how distinct each one of them is, that's basically like, 27 different specs to play. 27 different kinds of characters you can play. So that's really cool. And I mean, if there's this level of depth and detail in the starting locations of the other races, hey, I would almost, I'd be interested in that too. They've got like, the races are not like the most interesting thing to me ever. It's like a fantasy game, There's humans, big humans, plant people, like ox, bison sort of people with horns, and little people like, the dwarf, Lalafell, tiny race, and each of them, if it's as interesting as the Sylvari stuff, then hey, in the future, the idea doesn't like offend me to go check out another character. Like, oh, I wonder what the human starting location is like and all that stuff. It is a bit of a gambit. I remember when I played a bit of the old Star Wars: The Old Republic. That game has a unique starting storyline for each class, and there's like one that is considered amazing. It's like The Spy. Has from what everyone says, an amazing class storyline. And I picked the Bounty Hunter because Bounty Hunters are cool, and I thought, it's fine. It's a fine story, That's the advantage and disadvantage, right? When you play something like 14, everyone pretty much goes through the same storyline, right? A couple minor choices are different here and there. But you get to control that, and the writers have a lot of control over just making sure that's good. With a game like Guild Wars, you got to write and design 4 or 5 different racial storylines. And like, what if one of them is bad? You could as a player completely innocently pick a class that you think is, or a race you think is cool, and then oops, the story's boring. Like, that's what kind of happened in the Old Republic. But so far I've been having a good experience with it. So from what I have played of the game, I've had a very positive impression of it. So Guild Wars 2, for the moment, first impressions, gets a thumbs up from me.